Hi, welcome everybody to Fireside Chat number 12, The Red Pill and Cassie Jay. I am your host, Brian Martinez, and I'm joined by two of our most popular badgers, this Karen Strawn and Allison.
Oh
What?
my. No, it's just like you did like a popularity contest.
I
Oh
know.
my
No,
god,
I
Brian.
have you guys tied, though.
No, 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 no. I mean with the others. Like
I
it's
don't even know.
Oh,
I don't even know why you're comparing me and Allison as far as terms, in terms of popularity, because like she wins hands down.
oh, you're so
Yeah,
cute.
I'm just being goofy.
that's how
You're
you do it.
sweet.
But we're here with.
Our special guest, Cassie Jay. Thank you for joining us, Cassie.
Hi, thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Oh, it's really nice to see you again. It's always nice talking to you whenever I get the chance. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. I suppose we're like gonna try and sort of jump right in because you have limited time. As far as I know. But as far as like we know you've done sort of interviews ad nauseum, and I've watched several of them, and I know that you've sort of had to sort of repeat the same answers over and over and over and over again. One question that I hadn't ever seen anybody ask you yet. I don't know if that you have been asked, but I haven't seen it. Was there any point, because like you said that this filming this was sort of an unexpected experience for you. It didn't go as planned. It wasn't like the other two documentaries that you had done. And I was just wondering if was there any point at all during the interviewing and the filming and all of that that you found like that you had an emotional sort of catharsis or that you had a really emotional moment, like and if so, is can you share that with us, or would it spoil the movie?
Yeah, well, actually, you'll see in the film next year that there were a lot of those moments of just questioning everything, which I think is a scary thing for many people who have gone through that process of questioning what they believe. It's a scary experience. So, yeah, there are very many emotional moments, and those were captured and will be included in the film. Hopefully, not to the point of like nausea for the people watching, but yeah, it was a very a windy road. The whole film for me making the film, it was very windy, where I would jump back and forth between what I thought and believed and what I questioned, I wasn't expecting it to be like that in the beginning when I started the film. I wasn't even planning on including myself in the film, and I was just planning on showing men's rights activists saying their piece and seeing where it went. And I thought it would be shocking, and whatever would happen, I thought it would be an entertaining film. And but what I did not expect was that it would put me on my own journey of discovery. So as far as specific moments, I probably can't go too much in detail about those since it'd be spoilers, but yeah, there were very intense moments that will be included in the film.
Oh, excellent.
I just wanted to jump in here for a second. Just thank you, Cassie, for letting us have a voice. I mean, regardless of how the film turns out, letting us actually speak. That's a big thing, I think, for a lot of us to actually have the ability to say what we're about and actually say what the issues and the concerns that we have, as opposed to having a panel of people just conjecturizing on what we are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would like to point out that I've been experiencing some interesting developments with the media attention around the red pill that's been going on from this Kickstarter, and there's a very different way of sharing the story, whether it's someone interviewing you for an article that they then write, or a live stream that is unedited and the audience gets to hear exactly what was said and the context it was said and all that. And both ways of sharing that story are so different as far as the level of manipulation that can happen through that medium of way of sharing the story. So it's either interpreting it through the journalist's view of what was said from the interviewee, or it's letting the audience see what actually happened in that interview unedited. And obviously I prefer the live streams more because you can see everything in context. But you know, that is my goal with the film, is to show the audience the journey that I went on without cherry picking the comments that I know will shock people, or I mean, and obviously, I have to admit there will be editing in the film because we have 100 hours of footage, so we're not going to show you a 100-hour film. But so there will be editing going on. But my goal with it is to keep everyone in context with their intentions being coming across to the audience. And so, Allison, thank you for saying that, because I do intend to let all of our interviews share what they meant to say and not be cherry picked.
And I think that's really important to support that kind of thing. Nobody needs to be preached at or told what they should believe. Let it all. Oop, I think we got a bit of an echo, but just lay it on the table and let people make their own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not something that we're used to as well. I mean, I know that you are aware of that, right? That we're sort of not used to being invited to speak for ourselves, and essentially, like, I mean, even the CBC just recently, just this last weekend, had a 20-minute long panel about men's rights activists that included 2 feminists and one guy who's he's supportive of the issues, but he doesn't really know anything about men's rights activists. And it's kind of like, why wouldn't you actually ask a men's rights activist to speak on a panel? Like, we're not used to, like, media speaking to us. We're usually used to them speaking about us. So
yeah, was that the Sunday Talk video?
Yeah,
that was fascinating to watch.
Well, I mean, like, Jonathan Kay did a really good job of representing the issues and defending our right to speak and our right to exist. But at the same time, he really doesn't know a whole lot about us as a movement. And so essentially, I mean, he had no response to the accusation that we exclude trans people, right? The exact same day that footage was uploaded to YouTube for the Sunday Talk, I was being introduced by a trans woman to give a talk at Simon Fraser University. And she's the president of their Men and Boys Society, right? So, he didn't have an answer for it because he just doesn't know anything about the movement and who's included and who's not. So it's frustrating. It's really frustrating, and that's why I appreciate so much your effort that you've put into this and the fact that you've stuck to your guns. And yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really a crazy month with getting a lot of emails and messages from people from all backgrounds and labels. And something that I've seen a lot of is people saying, I saw your video or I've seen your interviews, and this is not going to be balanced. But then the person saying that is obviously a very one side of the spectrum person, and so it is all perspective. What you believe would be the balance may not actually be balance in if a mass amount of people were interviewed about the topic. But all I can say is that this journey, my approach to this film and to meeting all these people was to understand where everyone was coming from, and to the best of my ability. So that is what will be shown in the film, and I'm sure still people have opinions about whether or not it is lenient on one side or too nice to another side. But I just want to share everything that I learned and with an open mind, and share that for the audience to make their own opinion. And I'm sure a lot of people will leave the theater thinking I completely disagreed with more than half of what was said in the film, and that's your right, absolutely. I mean, but we should at least have films that show all the talking points and let the audience see that, because it does seem like what's being shown currently in films and in the media is one side is getting a louder microphone.
Well, I just wanted to say, Ooh, okay, Cassie, you're having a bit of an echo problem, so. Oh, wait,
Oh,
you probably. Yeah,
well,
I might. I think I'm gonna have to just mute. Yeah, just mute and unmute. I just wanted to say, for somebody who supports creative freedom and creators' right to express themselves in whatever way that they feel is valid. That in and of itself, the fact that you are saying trying to be balanced, because that's important to you, but also reflecting what you feel and your principles. That to me is important. And to me, it's more important than advancing any particular agenda or trying to get people to decide a side. To ensure that there's creative freedom, that people have the right to express themselves in the way that is most congruent with how they feel, or not just how they feel, but their principles that they hold. So I just wanted to say that this is, to me, that's a good thing, regardless of the decision, or regardless of how people say, oh, it leans too much this side, too much that side, whatever. I think it's good to see that you got to be able to express what you see and within the context of your principles, and without anybody having that kind of creative oversight over you. So I just wanted to say that, and I think we should maybe go to questions from the chat. So
Yeah.
unless you want to answer, you want to say something to that, Cassie.
Oh, just thank you for saying that.
Okay. Here's a question. Here's a question. What took you most by surprise during the interviews for the movie? I'm gonna make a guess. I'm gonna make a wild stab. It was how tall Paul is.
That was very surprising. Very, I had no idea. Yeah, I mean, I knew he had to fly in a plane that had extra legroom, but I didn't know quite the extent of it. Yeah, so he's very, very tall.
He's a
I
bit.
feel fortunate, but yeah.
But was there anything like what did take you most by surprise? It couldn't have actually been Paul. I mean, that's pretty shocking, but when you first meet him, but.
Yeah. Actually, the whole film is about how tall he is. That's the most shocking information I learned. Now, what was most shocking? Really, and I know this kind of sounds like a cop-out answer, but really everything, because I was so blind to the issues and didn't know anything going into this, and I think that's the only way I could have made this film, was not knowing anything beforehand, so it could unravel naturally for the audience to see in the moment of processing all this information. But yeah, I mean, just I think that the issues is what really shocked me, and probably, and I could see getting attacked for saying this, but probably the humanity behind the people that I interviewed, everyone. I think people are a lot more polarizing online or with their online presence and their personality, whether it's on Twitter or blogging or podcasting or whatever it is. But when you meet people one-on-one, there are people with history and family behind what they say, and reasons why they came to whatever side of the movement they're on. And before I interviewed many of these people, I watched a lot of what they said online and their videos, and I wasn't necessarily too thrilled about what they said, and I was a little bit afraid to meet them, not knowing what would happen, or if it would turn in some kind of confrontation, debate, and I was a bit worried. But when I ended up talking to everyone, it was I wanted to interview people on a understanding level and not have it escalate to these kind of, I don't know, arguments that people are yelling at each other instead of listening to each other. So that is the energy of the film and the interviews, is really trying to get to the bottom of what they believe, why they believe it, and what needs to happen. And but yeah, so shocking moments. I'm just probably meeting each person and realizing that there's emotions and reasons behind what they do, and hope to show that to the audience.
Actually, it is really, really different talking to people in like face to face. like being sitting in a room. There's an intimacy there that you don't ever seem to get online. And yeah, I can actually see how it would completely change maybe your willingness to listen to their concerns or their issues, or sort of be more open to the fact that, yeah, this is a human being in front of me and it's not just text on a screen. It's not just a polemic, right? It's a person.
So here's another question for Cassie. What took you most by surprise during your interviews? Oh, sorry, we already asked that question. Did you ever consider quitting when it made you challenge your assumptions?
Oh, well, the thing that I was most on the fence about with this film was whether or not to include myself. I knew that I could complete a great film without including myself in it, and that was definitely preferable to me, just for my own sanity and not having to air out all the dirty laundry and skeletons. But so that's what I was most on the fence about, was whether or not to put myself in it. And it took over a year, actually, of going back and forth in my head whether I should be in it. And I knew it was the film that I wanted to see, where it's this girl, self-proclaimed feminist, going on this journey, learning things she hasn't known before. That's the film that I would want to see. So that's what ultimately made me commit to putting my story in it. But as far as quitting the project, was that the question that was there over time?
Yeah. Did you ever consider quitting?
I did. I was, and actually, this Kickstarter was the vote. I was giving it up to the audience to see if they wanted to see this film, and as much as it was needing the funds to complete the film, it was also a survey to see if anyone would even care about this film. And it was really, I was definitely prepared that this wouldn't be a successful Kickstarter, and even about halfway through, when I thought we weren't going to make it to the end goal, I was already planning what to do with the rest of my life and to move on, and that was a sad thought to not see this project through. But ultimately, as I believe in an artist, a creative, and I enjoy making films, but at the same time you have to make a living, and documentaries are not easy to complete. They take many years, and I still had to find other work and move on if we didn't get this funding. And up to this point, the film, before the Kickstarter, the film was self-funded by myself and my two other producers, and so I was working side jobs, and then everything I made was going into this film, and I couldn't keep that up. So yeah, this Kickstarter was the deciding factor, and there was even about a month before we launched the Kickstarter, I was actually thinking I shouldn't do this Kickstarter. A part of me is too prideful to ask the public for money, especially friends and family. It's embarrassing because you like to have this image of being a successful filmmaker, and you don't want to put it out there that you're having money issues. So I didn't want to do the Kickstarter, and I was also I would like to add that a part of this Kickstarter that really worried me was basically, for a lack of a better way of saying this, it felt like coming out of the closet. And I knew that because I had kept this film pretty hush over the past 2.5 years, even with my colleagues and friends. I didn't really talk too much about this film just because I didn't want it to turn into arguments. I'm not very confrontational. So I didn't tell a lot of people about this project, and even a few of the people that I had been telling about this project led to some wedges between us, and that was unfortunate. And so doing this Kickstarter, I knew I was basically coming out of the closet, that I did go on this journey, that it did make me question things, and now saying that I went on this journey, people who I know want to talk about it and basically tell me all the reasons of why they disagree with whatever I'm saying or however I'm making this film. So I was basically, by launching the Kickstarter and thinking it could fail, but now forevermore, my name will be attached to this project, and could that create roadblocks for me getting other work down the line? And a lot of my previous work was very female-centric stories, which I enjoy, and I love telling women's stories as well, and I hope to keep telling those stories. But I knew that this film could create problems down the road. So yeah, so I had maybe a month before the Kickstarter where I was really thinking I shouldn't do this. I should just move on, and that was really sad because I know a lot of people who have been involved with this film were really excited about the interviews that they did with me for the film, and kind of everyone just felt like, oh, I can't wait to see this film come together and finally be out in the world, because there's a lot of great content there that should be shared, and it would be a terrible thing to not share it. So.
Okay, Cassie, I just wanted to say
that
I disagree with something.
Okay.
No, I disagree with the fact that you think that going to Kickstarter or crowdfunding means that you're not a success.
Oh.
Oops, I'm sorry about that. The echo, I apologize. That was really badly timed.
But there's still. Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, we're constantly plagued by technical difficulties. But I just wanted to say that's not, in my mind, that is not at all the mark of failure. It's a mark of integrity to say, I'm not going to allow people to dictate my creative freedom, but I will take it upon myself and just let the chips fall where they may. Even though I've invested this amount of time, I'll let the chips fall where they may and let people decide if they want to see this, they want to advance my creative freedom, or if they don't want it. I mean, that's brave. It's very brave.
I would absolutely agree. I would also, this is kind of a nice segue into one of the questions, as far as the footage. Like, we know that if you've taken over 100 hours of footage, it's not going to all go into the film. Is there like anywhere where you'd be able to make some of that footage that doesn't go in available for people to look at after the movie's released?
Yeah, we've definitely talked a lot about how to make that available, unedited interviews, or at least editing out the breaks for water and bathroom. But yeah, we have talked about doing extended bonus features, unedited interviews, and how to release those. It'll probably have to be after we release the film for at least a year or two, so we get people to watch that first before just having access to everything. But yeah, we do want to release the footage for posterity, really. I mean, there's some people that we interviewed that are getting up there in age. Sorry to point that out, but we want to have what they said out there.
Thanks a lot.
Allison.
It's just because tomorrow's my 45th freaking birthday. Thank you so much. I was actually going to say don't release the extended bit of my interview, because it was really late at night. It was long, and I had heat stroke, and I'd been drinking. So that's a lot of. I don't even know if I was sitting upright for most of it.
Yeah, you're 45 now, Kevin.
Kevin, yes, Kevin.
Yes, it's time for the ice flow for you.
Sorry, Cassie. Kevin is my porn name. But just to let you in on the joke. But yeah, no, they're going to put me on an ice flow tomorrow. But on the bright side, my mom is going to bake a spice cake from scratch with coffee icing and Smarties in the icing, just like I had on my 8th birthday. And she's going to cook that for me on Sunday, and then they're going to shove me off on the ice floe, and they're going to wave, "Bye, Karen, bye. See you later," or not. So,
well, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so should we go to another question?
Yes, we should.
All right. Which of the interviewees, I assume, was the funniest interviews was the funniest of the recording sessions? So which one did you find the funniest?
I love to always be truthful, and I have to be truthful on this. Big Red was very enjoyable to interview. So I think we'll probably get a lot of laughs from her interview. It was very fun.
I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. She was she funny, or was she unintentionally funny? Like was she?
That might be a spoiler.
That might be a spoiler. You're right.
Yeah, I think it's just her personality. Just the words that she comes up with and the way she communicates is just it's very.
She's a little intense.
I'm curious about something. The name Big Red, is that something that that she calls herself, or is that something that we like? Does she like identify with that sort of nickname, or does she just call herself Shanty Banks? That's I'm just curious.
Good question. She actually requested to be credited as Big Red in the film.
Wow.
Oh, okay. I always thought,
what she's known by now.
Until the sort of I would call it damseling. I sort of respected Big Red because at least she's she's doing her thing. I think she believes in it. She's extremely open about what she believes, and I remember there was like apparently she usually is up against I think it was a pro-life preacher, and then they'll like say hello to each other, and then they'll go on their respective corners and then shout.
Yeah, no. I mean, like she definitely is not scared to speak her mind, and that is one thing that I can absolutely respect. But when she started, and again, this was Futrell too, right? He posted a bunch of comments that she'd received, all from MRAs, none of whom I recognized as even people commenting on my videos. That were threatening, and there weren't even any threats in there. And one of the things that was posted as one of these threats that she'd received was a comment from who was it? Dan Perrins, saying, I really feel bad that you're having to deal with all of this, this vitriolic stuff, right? It was actually a sympathetic comment that was like, it's sad that that this stuff happens, and that was portrayed as a threat. It was just bizarre. And I don't know how much of the damseling was on like Big Red's part, or whether it was Futrell damseling on her behalf.
Yeah. Well, she definitely does say her piece. But let's maybe we could take another question from the chat. How much more do you still have to do in terms of filming?
Oh, that's a good question. We have to still do. Oh my gosh, that's so inopportune. I just have a knock at the door. I'm so sorry. Do you mind if?
Okay, we can.
Probably.
Okay, hold on one second.
In the masses.
All right.
All right.
Let's try to entertain the people.
All right. Well, while the Jehovah's Witnesses try to convert Cassie.
This is how real this is, guys. This is a real show.
Okay.
I'm on the phone, but
Is she gonna get into a fist fight?
I don't know. It sounds a little bit feisty. Nah. I'm gonna mute her though, because this is probably inappropriate.
Yeah, I don't think we need to hear all that.
All right. Okay. So yeah, you know what? Like what I was getting at is it was sort of like the way they portrayed it was that Big Red and this other very vocal pro-life preacher were like. Have you ever seen those Warner Brother cartoons with Wile? I think it's Wile E. Coyote and the sheepdog.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're walking into their jobs, and they say, yeah, hi Ed.
They punch their time cards.
They punch their time cards. They're like, they even eat lunch together.
Yeah.
When it's break time.
Yeah.
But during work hours, it's all business.
Yeah, and they're at each other's throats, right? Yeah. No, that's a really good analogy for that, because that just seems to be how a lot of these activists work. Is sort of really it is work.
Right? Sorry about that. I'm back. Really
That's
sorry.
okay. Did the Jehovah's Witness convert you?
Yeah, it was a FedEx guy, and he needed me to move my car for a box, and I told him, I'm on a live interview right now. Can you just leave it there? I'll find a neighbor to help me bring it upstairs.
Oh.
Yeah, but anyways, sorry about that.
You know, it's unacceptable. Apologies, not even remotely acceptable. You need to not only apologize, but apologize and step down from your position after you apologize and admit your white privilege. Which leads us into the other question that I was wondering, which was...
How do you feel about the safe space culture wars going on right now?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm going to hold my breath until you answer it.
You know what's interesting and ironic about this is because I completely see the argument that people should have tougher skin, and this is reality. Just if people have differing views from you, that you shouldn't be silencing them just because it makes you feel uncomfortable. I completely understand that argument. What's kind of ironic with me, though, is I have been avoiding going to the forums and the chat rooms to see what people are saying about me, because I know that for me, just my I would prefer to not know everything that's being said, so I have producers who are reading everything and letting me know when I need to know something is happening, but otherwise I do basically create my own safe space by just not going there. So that's kind of funny. But I feel like you should have that right to not put yourself in a position to have information that may upset you, but at the same time you shouldn't be silencing others from being able to say whatever they want to say. So.
I think I would agree with that. I think as somebody who had a hate blog made in my name like 4 years ago, like not even very long after I started, complete with a photoshopped picture of me with a bloody nose and a black eye, and my face superimposed over a Campbell's soup casserole, 3-bean casserole ad from the 60s, right? Serving it up to my pipe-smoking husband along with his slippers, and like devoted, an entire Tumblr blog devoted to hating me. I can totally understand why you would avoid doing, like looking at that. And like my boyfriend used to go and read what people were saying me on some of the other subreddits on Reddit, where they would just places where I've been banned, and because they want to be able to talk about me without me being able to go in there and comment. And he would say, I just, they're saying this about you, and I'd just be like, whatever, just let them talk. I don't care. And I'm not going to go looking at it because that's just morbid. It's, like there's a difference between addressing criticism of the things that you have said that is, sort of offered in a civil way, right? And going and diving into some hostile territory where everybody is like, everybody hates you and they're all talking shit about you. Like, I have no interest in doing that. So even though I know there are places on the internet where that's all they do, right? So
right.
I can totally understand that. But I would never, ever, like, want to essentially say, well, shit Reddit says has no right to exist because they talk shit about me, and they've banned me from commenting. So it is a matter of, you have a thick skin and you avoid the things that just take too big an emotional toll. And yeah, no, I completely agree with your approach to things.
Okay, so here's another question from the chat. How did making the film affect your relationship with the other producers of the film? If you can reveal any of that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So, I think that would probably give away too many spoilers. But we all went on our own journey making this film. We were all coming to this topic with a blank canvas, not knowing anything. And I think we all had our own separate experience that took, we each took our own amount of time to go through the journey we had to go on for ourselves. And then we had a lot of conversations about it. And but what I loved the most about our conversations was we were always wanting to hear what the other person had to say and not trying to preach to each other that you should believe this way. And that's, I think, the only way that I could have had my producers working on this project, if we were all willing to listen to each other rather than trying to stifle the other's opinions or views. You know, I think I've had more friends who do not know very much about the men's rights movement who have taken more initiative to try to tell me what to do and what to believe, and my producers never did that. But you know, I also kind of take a totalitarian approach to my team where they do respect that I'm the leader and the director of the team, and but yeah, I think we've all been very open to listening to each other and wanting to understand more and not jump to conclusions, and open to finding whatever statistical information we can find, even when they conflict with each other. That's been a really interesting process for all of us, is finding studies that say one thing, but then you realize who is funding the study that says more about that. So we'll be including that in the film, where we show the data, and then also include what organization funded the study, and you know, go into the details of that. But
are you implying that studies funded by the tobacco companies that say that cigarette smoking doesn't cause cancer might be questionable?
I think we should at least have the public decide for themselves, don't you think?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so another question. I'm trying to find something maybe a little easier. How many sandwiches did you have to make for us? Well, we're the ladies' auxiliary, but how many sandwiches did you have to make for evil men's rights activists?
I don't make sandwiches, but you know, there should be one of those little bloop kind of pop-up numbers during the film with how many times the word sandwich has been said in this film.
The sandwich mines. I've been working I've been toiling in the sandwich mines for the last 15 years. I'm about to be promoted to almost the surface level.
Your head sandwich wench.
Yeah, head sandwich wench.
Yeah, I think we could probably have a few drinking games in this film with certain words that are said a few too many times, but.
Yeah, well, I certainly Chank, sorry, on the Young Turks definitely increased the count of the sandwich.
Oh yeah, now the sandwich is the ham sandwich in particular is now, it's like iconic. You know, when Cenk Uygur told a woman to thank the suffragettes or stop voting and make me a ham sandwich.
Yeah, well, Cassie might not get the reference.
You should watch it, Cassie. If you ever need like a laugh, if you ever need a good laugh, you should watch my interview with Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, because
okay.
yeah, it went not too bad for the first 20 minutes, and then the last 10 minutes he just he went into like crazy town and Bill O'Reillyville, and yeah.
You know, I think I saw that interview. Was it recent?
Yeah, it was like maybe like 8 months ago or something like that. It was not too recent. Okay. But yeah, there's a lot of downvotes on that video, even from like Young Turks fans, because they were like, "What is going on here?" But yeah, I just didn't concede my point. Like I didn't agree with him, and yeah, so he told me to stop voting and make him a ham sandwich.
Wow. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I just the talk of sandwich just reminded me of the most famous sandwich incident with amongst us in recent memory. Okay, so how long is the movie going to be, and will it have an international distribution? Will it be present online somewhere?
Okay, so how long? We aim to make it about 80 to 90 minutes, which getting into some muddy details here, but we're doing this Oscar qualifying theatrical release, so we've been working on making sure we have everything set in place to make sure we qualify, and recently learned that you can only have up to 10% of your film available online before the theatrical release, and if you have any more than 10%, then you're disqualified, which we have an 8-minute sneak preview on the Kickstarter, which was kind of a fluke that it just turned out to be 8 minutes. So we can't have it under 80 minutes, basically, is what I'm saying. So yeah, it'll be 80 to 90 minutes long, which is an average documentary length, and film festivals like that length for programming. They don't want it much longer than that because they can't fit in enough films. And then as far as distribution, it really depends on who's willing to take it on. We're more than prepared to self-distribute. I did it with my first film, and it was actually a really great model. And you know, a lot of what happens with self-distribution is it's all about your own promotional efforts and marketing, and which is funny because once you get enough marketing out there for the film, then the distributors want you. So they only really want you when you're already popular enough for people to want to see your film, even if it was self-distributed. So really, we just need to get the word out, and that's what will determine if we get good distribution or self-distribute, which I'm fine to self-distribute. I think it may protect us in a lot of ways. I am a little bit concerned that if we did take on a distributor and they started getting letters saying that they shouldn't be screening our film, then they could feel like their hands were binded to not promote us as much, and so yeah, so we need to take all that into account. But as far as international distribution, we would love to do screenings all over the world. We actually sold a lot of screening rights to our Kickstarter backers who purchased a $1,000 reward or above, and I know many of them are planning to do screenings in Europe and Asia and other places. So we will be getting out there, and then for digital streaming and digital distribution, that will be made available. I'm not sure yet how many languages we'll be able to translate it into, but we plan to do closed captioning. And what was the last question?
Are you going to have it available on the internet, I think?
Yeah, so we'll definitely make it available for a digital download, and we hope to get streaming distribution, and you know, ideally we would love to be on Netflix or Hulu or something like that that's easily searchable and gets a wider audience. But you know, it really depends on who is willing to take on this film as a part of their roster, and we know some people will be too afraid of that. I've had a lot of letters of support from people saying, I love what you're doing, but I just can't be public about saying that. And I get it. So, you know, we'll see if distributors are gutsy enough to take it on.
All right. So another question is, did you interview Christina Hoff Sommers, or Kamel Paglia, or Kathy Young?
Halia.
Camille Paglia.
No, I of those three, I contacted Christina Hoff Sommers early on in filming, and you know, nothing against her, obviously, but didn't hear back. And you know, I understand she was very busy. But I didn't hear back from a lot of people that I requested to interview, and then also some people who I was really trying to interview. We didn't have the funds to meet them where they lived. So yeah, a lot of, you know, documentaries is kind of, you know, throwing the cards up and seeing where they land, and that will make the documentary you can make. And And it's not that we tried to, go out of our way to exclude certain people. It was just simply what we had the funds and ability to film.
All right, and I apologize if this question has been answered ad nauseum. When the DVD is released, will there be additional footage on the DVD that isn't in the film?
We do plan to do bonus features. I don't believe it will be during the first DVD release. It may be a second release later on with extended features, mainly because what we're really working towards right now is to release the film before the U.S. presidential election, which is November 8th next year, 2016, and we're going to be really trying desperately to meet that deadline. And then we hope to release the DVD shortly after we do a theatrical screening run for maybe 9 months or so. So then we'll release the DVD. And basically why we can't include the extended features during the initial DVD release is because it's like creating its own film, going into all the extra footage and compiling it into a story that's easy to follow. And so we'll need another a good portion, maybe a half year to a year, to complete those extended features.
Oh, hey, one really quick question to interject in between all of the questions from the chat. I was just wondering if you'd heard any of the allegations that have sort of come about recently regarding Hillary Clinton and her history of spousal abuse. Like it's not just one or two people that have come forward now claiming that they've been witnesses to her throwing things and like a maid coming into the bedroom to make the bed and finding blood all over it, and he's got a big huge wound on his neck, and all of this, Bill Clinton there, and him having to attend press conferences with claw marks on his face. Have you heard any of those allegations? They've been sort of, it's not just allegations of spousal abuse either, it's Secret Service agents and aides to her when she was First Lady reporting verbal abuse and all kinds of anger management issues that she has. Just wondering, because since you mentioned the presidential campaign, I was just wondering if you'd heard any of that and what your thoughts might be on those.
Yeah. Well, this is the very first time I'm hearing about this. So that's quite shocking if that's being said and if there's evidence for that. Yeah, so I really can't speak on it further than that. This is the first time hearing, and that's shocking.
Right. Yeah, no, I found it quite surprising too, just in the sense that there have been, I think, 3 biographies written about her that include these, and there's very few people talking about it. And one of the biographies was published by a woman who has like very, very clear and impeccable liberal feminist credentials. So I just was wondering if you'd heard of it. Just because, you said about the presidential campaign. So, but if you haven't, then no worries. On to the next question, Allison.
Alrighty. So, Cassie, have you ended up behind the great Twitter block list? Or Tumblr? Well, I don't think Tumblr really has a block list, or at least not one that I'm aware of.
The block bot list is what she's talking about. The block bot list that has blocked KFC because someone associated with someone who was associated with Gamergate was also following KFC, and this block bot list is like this pyramid of it's actually a sequence of overlapping pyramids where if you've ever tweeted under the hashtag Gamergate, then anybody that you follow is also blocked, and anybody that they follow is also blocked. So like there's 60 freaking million people blocked on Twitter based on this particular algorithm that was created so that people like Anita Sarkeesian don't have to endure negative tweets.
This is the first time I'm hearing about this too. I've never heard of this. I don't know if I'm on it. I don't think so.
I know that Karen.
Try tweeting to Anita Sarkeesian, and if you're blocked, then you're on the block bot.
Well, no, you just have to look at her profile, and if you can't see Anita Sarkeesian's profile, then you're on the block bot. I was put on the block bot before I even was like active on Twitter. I had a Twitter account, but I never went to Twitter. And I had Twitter followers because people would look me up and be like, "Oh, I'll follow you." But I never actually really tweeted anything aside from maybe like autonomous like tweets that just go out when I publish something. And I found out that I was on tier 1 of the Twitter block bot.
And I'm on tier 2. I don't understand that. I'm way more mean than you, Allison.
I think I'm more subversive.
Oh, so you say.
Maybe. I don't know.
Or are you?
Or am I? Okay, let's so how far, this is another question for Cassidy. How far do you see this movie going in terms of cultural impact? Is it practical for us, I assume he means men's rights activists, to hope for change on a large scale?
I don't know. This film is just one story of many. I would love to see other people make a similar kind of film that's going on your own expedition, trying to learn more about gender issues and listen to all opposing views. And if you feel like you've had skin in the game or your own views before this exploration, then document that as well. I would love to see more stories like that, because mine is, unique to what I went on. I don't think it's the answer to all gender-related discussions and giving the answers to everything we need to do. I view this film more as a conversation starter on a level of really listening and trying to understand what people are saying and looking at the data rather than just slinging mud at each other and not listening to the other side. So if it can have the impact to really change cultures in regards to gender, then that's a tall order. I would love for it to have a positive impact, of course. I mean, that's the goal with this film. Does it have the ability to be the game changer? I think it could. I think the possibility is there. I wouldn't rule it out. But it really depends on the public response and if people watch it and then want to share it and are inspired to do something about what they learn. I would love to see that happen. And yeah, I think we're at the right time, though, to start having these discussions.
Definitely. So we just got word back from our alien, our friendly neighborhood alien, Neff, that you aren't on the block box.
You're not on the block bot, Cassie. You are still considered a human being.
Well, for how long, though? I think yet is the word.
Yeah, okay, so here's another question, and I sort of saved it for last because it might be a little bit controversial. Did the whole experience also make you curious about the Gamergate side of the past year, and if you had an opinion on it? I'll just let that one, and maybe I'll ask the second half, depending on.
Well, in all honesty, I didn't know much about Gamergate before Kickstarter, really. I mean, I looked it up on Wikipedia, and I kind of knew that there was drama around it. I didn't really know what happened. I knew it had something to do with a journalist, but I didn't know the extent of it. And because of this Kickstarter and that we were getting shared by a lot of people with the hashtag Gamergate, of course I had to go more into it and understand it. So it won't be, it won't have a chapter in the Red Pill movie. I think it will be included as far as talking about kind of the gender debates going on in our society right now. I think we'll include something about it in those kind of broad overview sections. but now I am more interested to learn about it and follow it and see where it goes and what happens. And I think the whole thing with the South by Southwest panel, the drama going on there is very interesting. So yeah, I'm anxious to see what happens.
Well, to speak to the South by Southwest panel, I noticed that they're not really, they don't seem to be very interested in women who have experienced the real world, some real world consequences to Twitter harassment. I think Karen knows what I'm talking about. The selection of people is definitely, for the South by Southwest panel, the selection of people is definitely on one side. And the interesting thing is, I think me and Karen could definitely speak on the real world experience of being harassed, like having been harassed on Twitter to the point where it caused real world consequences to both myself and her.
I wouldn't know about Twitter because I stay off of Twitter and I'm
No. I'm talking about the 20 tweets that got tweeted about our alleged harassment at the Calgary Expo.
Oh, yeah.
I went there.
You went there, yeah. What actually, Twitter is one of those horrible places where in 140 characters or less, you can completely vilify somebody, you can completely malign them, you can throw out any accusation, and you don't really have to back it up. Essentially, I mean, like what Allison's referring to is like Allison had rented a booth to promote her comic, and she'd invited the Honey Badgers to share the booth with her and sell some merchandise and all of that at the Calgary Comics Expo, and we got kicked out over allegations that we were harassing panelists and harassing convention goers. None with any proof, and most of them just arriving at being tweeted at Calgary Expo from people who weren't even at the convention, people who hadn't, they weren't even there to have witnessed anything, and we were booted out, and we were not just booted out. They had 2 police vans and 4 police officers on hand when they ejected us, because they were worried, because we were part of a hate group, a violent hate group, and a terror.
We also had the Gamergate. We had a Gamergate flag, symbol on a flag that we were putting on our booth that said "Stand Against Censorship."
Yeah.
And
so essentially, we were associated with, as promoting a violent terrorist hate group, right? Because that's the reputation that Gamergate has. And so they actually called police in, 4 police officers and 2 police vans, just in case they would have to take us out with the paddy wagon, right, and haul us off to jail when they decided that they were going to eject us. It was just the most bizarre thing, that tweets on Twitter could set something like that in motion for a group of mostly women and minorities, right? That are just there, selling buttons and T-shirts and comic books. It was just bizarre. It was very, very strange.
And of course, this is the documentarian speaking. But did you get any footage of this?
Yeah.
Well, we got some footage of it. We got photos.
Well, I can, because I know pretty much all of the footage. I'm more of the admin person than Karen, so I could probably field this a bit better. We had someone who was very sympathetic to us, and he documented statements of all of us afterwards. And I believe he did it with at least a semi-pro camera. And then we also have a bit of footage from the booth itself, from cameras that I actually explicitly asked the convention. I said, would it be possible for us to film inside our booth? And they said yes. Everything that I did at that convention, I passed through the administration of that convention. I got an email trail a mile wide. So we have that we have some sort of more like security cam footage of us in the booth. We have recording of the panel. They actually, the convention itself recorded the panel in video, and they released panels on their YouTube site, but they didn't release that one in video. but we got an audio recording of the panel where the alleged harassment took place, in which I stood up and asked for permission to speak when they actually brought up the topic of men's rights activists. I essentially said, I'm a men's rights activist, I can speak to this topic, and then I spoke to it, and there was a back and forth, like not an aggressive, or at the end of the panel, I thought it went really well. It was nothing aggressive happened. People just and after I spoke, and the reason why I got up to speak is I'm sort of short. Basically, the difference is very little from when I stand up and when I sit down. So nobody can hear me if I'm sitting down. But anyway, the other audience members after I spoke just started to shout out questions at the panel and shout out their opinion at the panel, and so it seemed like at most a lively discussion. Nothing like at all. Nobody was upset. Nobody was angry. And I have that all recorded. So, and I put it up on our YouTube channel for people to make the decision themselves. And that's part of the documentation we have. We have lots and lots of photos, some video of my presentation, which I was extremely proud of. I worked for months to create like an installation.
Yeah, she didn't just have a booth. She had like this whole huge backdrop and like these massive props and an installation and everything. It took like 5 hours to set up. And then, we arrived. You arrived, like at 9:30 in the morning, and they're like, you have to be out of here by 11.
No, we arrived about, if it opened at 11, I don't exactly remember when it opened at 9. I think you might be right, it was 11. We arrived at maybe 10:30.
Yeah. And, essentially, it was just bizarre. It was just like rumors on Twitter. And, like, we've got a lawsuit pending on this because it was absolutely, like, they booted us out. We'd paid for the table, and no refund, no reason given. We didn't violate any of their rules. No,
the reason was given that 20 people tweeted at them on Twitter.
Yeah, and that they didn't feel that we fit in with their safe and inclusive environment, right?
They didn't fit in with their mandate. And the funny thing is that the reason why I recorded that panel was earlier, Hannah Wallen overheard an event organizer and some members of what she considered to be she thought were the public, waving at our booth and saying we got to shut some of these booths down. And she wasn't sure if it was a joke or if they were really waving at our booth or if they were being legitimate. But at that point in time, we're like, okay, we don't know what if this is a concern. So what we did, and this is some of the video from the booth. What we did is we went to the customer service desk, which was directly across from us. In other words, the customer service could see everything that happened at that booth, everything. We went across to them. We said, okay, is there any problem? I know that it's possibly some of the materials could be problematic. Do you guys have any problem? They told us, no, you're fine. And we went back and we continued to and we caught footage of us coming back to the booth and talking about this. So it's like we don't know. It probably there's sort of a possibility that they intended to do this at some point whenever we stepped out of line, or could conceivably be framed as having stepped out of line. Not that when we stepped out of line, but
it was just the most bizarre thing that.
Yeah, it was definitely.
24 tweets could get us booted out with no refund. And booted out with the assistance of the Calgary police, right? And then the next day we staged a meetup at a park across the street from the fairgrounds, the convention grounds, because we had people coming in from out of town just to meet us, and we thought, well, we have to give them an opportunity to gather in a public place so they can meet us, and they called the cops on that, and 2 police vans arrived to make sure we weren't up to no good, and it was just the most bizarre thing.
Wow, that's crazy. It's a scary thing when any sign of dissent is grounds for ejection.
Well, you want to know what I said? I said we need to bring men into the conversation because not only is it we're ignoring men's vulnerabilities, but we're creating this false narrative that women are defined by being victims because they're women. and this is disempowering to women. That's what I said, and it's like, yeah, out, you heretic, Wong speech. So, and I'm being a little bit feisty about this right now. So it's just.
Yeah. But it was just very so essentially what we're saying is, like, we completely understand the any kind of trepidation you have or any kind of concerns you have about moving forward from this film. And what I think that that the best thing that we can do, especially since you're making what you believe to is a fair film, and it's a film that's deeply personal to you. It's you took creative control of it. You didn't allow anybody to dictate what kind of film you were going to make, and you wanted to be fair to both sides. That even if it portrays us as unflattering in some respects, and I'm sure it will, that we throw our support behind it, because the freedom to make a film like this, the freedom to make a statement like Allison made in that panel, that's an important thing. It's a really important thing to actually be able to have a life after doing that. Be able to make a living after doing that. And if we can actually boost the signal on this film, even if it isn't, even if there, and I'm sure there will be some MRAs who think it's not fair to MRAs, because you gave Chanty Binks a say, or whatever, right? And you allowed her to make her best argument. That we boost the signal on it, because it will actually pave the way for more people who are going to make films and create content that follows this lead, that allows people to come out of those shadows, allows the people that contact you and contact me for that matter, and say, as soon as I have tenure, I'll start speaking about this, but I don't have tenure yet, so please keep doing what you're doing, right? This is an email. This is like, and one of the I have categories of emails that I get, and this is one of them, right? I don't have tenure yet. I'm not secure in my job yet. Please keep doing what you're doing. The moment that I have job security, I'll start speaking up about this, but I can't right now. The more people speak up about it, the more people will feel like they can speak up about it. And that goes for feminists too. I think that feminists deserve every bit as much of a say as anybody else. And I think that a lot of the shit that the abusive comments and the negative comments that they receive, a lot of that is out of resentment that they're the only voice. I think if they were just one of many voices, they wouldn't get that. Right, but because people perceive that they're the only voice that's really allowed in the mainstream on these particular issues, that they get way more blowback than they would if they were just one of many voices contributing to the conversation. So I think that it would just make the entire thing much more balanced, and it would reduce the negativity that seems to be at the heart of every single discussion that occurs between feminists and MRAs, between feminists and anti-feminists. There's this huge resentment that feminists get a platform at The Guardian, feminists get a platform at Slate, they get a platform at Salon, they get a platform at every single major newspaper. There's a feminist section where feminist women give their feminist opinions, right? And men are relegated to the comment sections, and they're often heavily moderated comment sections. So I think that that's where a lot of the blowback comes from, is that the other side's been deprived of a voice. And if all of the voices had an equal say, I think that a lot of the hostility, I think feminists would find that they'd get a lot less hate mail.
Well, and the other thing is that it's not just silencing the men who don't agree with feminism, it's also silencing the women who would identify as non-feminists or have feminist critical things to say. Even feminists who have criticisms of feminism don't really have a space to entertain those criticisms without a heck of a lot of blowback. So yeah, and all we've ever wanted from the beginning is just to open up the discussion, to be able to talk to our, if the news media is talking about men's rights activists, maybe have one on your panel instead of just talking about us. Talk to us, talk with us. And so this is exactly what we want.
Important.
Regardless of what people think the ultimate outcome of this film is, Cassie talked to us.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask too, was Paul one of the first people that you interviewed?
Yes, yeah. He was the first person I contacted for the film too.
Oh, okay, and that didn't completely scare you away. 7 foot tall, bearded, behemoth. He didn't scare you off. That's actually I'm impressed. So.
Yeah, one of the journalists who interviewed me during this month asked about, actually many journalists, and I'll say they were feminist-leaning journalists, really asking me, how afraid of you were you of men's rights activists, and what were the worst experiences you had, and what was the most uncomfortable moment with them, and just really, digging in for those stories to tell. And also, as an aside, they also really wanted to know what made me a feminist and why I was a feminist and what were the moments that made me. And so I could tell that the stories that they were trying to put together was to validate why people become feminists, and also validate why MRAs are scary. But, of course, whatever anyone asks, I'll tell them my exact experience. And there were moments where I was afraid of men's rights activists and doing this film. And the reason I was afraid was because of what I heard. There were the only times that I was afraid from an actual experience I had with a men's rights activist was really just going into these topics that made me uncomfortable, and they had a lot of information to give that I couldn't defend or rebuttal what they were saying, and so there were a lot of uncomfortable conversations while interviewing people that will be included in the film. But as far as my fears of MRAs, it was only what I had heard of death threats and rape threats and harassment and doxing and all that. So just want that on the record for everyone reading those articles. So
yeah, no, I have to actually agree that like every single experience, and I've been to a bunch of events, and I've sort of cold called other MRAs in town here, or met them, at random places. Boston Pizza, we're gonna get together and meet this guy, and we'll sit down and talk and see if we can't collaborate. And I've actually, if I had been a reader of Futrell, if I had been a reader of Amanda Marcotte or Jessica Valenti, or any of the media outlets that proclaimed that Elliot Rodger was an MRA, or if he wasn't an MRA, he's exactly like MRAs, and he just might as well have been an MRA, and all of these, I would have been really leery of meeting any of these guys in person. But every single time I've met these guys in person, I mean, sometimes they're socially awkward, right? Sometimes like they're a little weird, like the way my kids are weird, in that kind of harmless way that just makes them almost endearing. But they're really nothing to be scared of. It's the most strange thing to like know so many of these people and have met them and talked to them, and then hear the way they're talked about, and try and reconcile those two views, because in my experience they're overwhelmingly just genuinely nice, kind, compassionate people. So yeah, it is, I can understand how, if you had heard all of that stuff about this particular group, that you would go in with trepidation. And it's sort of, I can imagine it would be like a really strange experience to sit down and in person and talk to them and come out with like a completely different, like, he didn't seem like a mass murderer. He didn't seem like a potential, terrorist of women. He just seemed like a genuine guy, right? So.
Yeah, and a lot of the comments that are cherry picked from men's rights activists that are then published in feminist media of what they say and what they do and all that. A lot of those comments, I think, are the disgust about these comments or feeling like they're threats. A lot of it just has to do with them being politically incorrect. Like, you don't say that. It doesn't matter if it's actually true. You just don't say that because it makes people feel uncomfortable. So, I mean, people have asked me, are there going to be shocking comments in the Red Pill, and were there things that were said that were misogynistic? And all I can say is it depends on what perspective you're coming from. I mean, to some or many, it may come off misogynistic based on what they think that means, or just revolting or vulgar or whatever it is. But what I'm trying to do with this film is to really figure out the intent behind the words, what is being said, what is the point they're trying to make, and let's get past, like, just for an hour and a half, let's put aside rules about being PC and really just go into the nitty-gritty and see what we can dissect.
That's awesome. I was wondering if you think that this is an amusing joke, because Allison keeps on bugging me to come out to visit her in Saskatchewan and spend a few days. And I keep telling her I can't because that's rape country and I'm canola phobic.
Canola phobic?
Yes, I'm canola phobic. Canola being rapeseed.
Oh. Oh.
They grow a lot of rape out there.
There's actually a sign. I recently took a picture with Mike Randomer. He's another person involved in Honey Badger Radio, and it was in front of the sign that says "Tisdale, the land of rape and honey." And it's rapeseed, which is a plant.
Yeah, so it's canola, and yeah, so it's essentially, and when she I forget who she was delivering a big box of stuff to, T-shirts and stuff to, and she dropped it in his lap and said, "There's your 40-pound box of rape," right? Because she comes from rape country, the land of rape and honey, and we're all canola phobic here. We live in a canola culture, and so it's just one of those things. Like, it could be perceived as insensitive or misogynistic, but I don't know. I just find it amusing.
Well, what's interesting about the whole so rape culture, the dialogue that's around that is that rape jokes are okay, and that's a part of rape culture. But what I'm seeing is that, at least in my experience filming, that a lot of times what makes people say those rape jokes is actually making fun of this rape culture idea that it's so normalized and everywhere and accepted, and so the rape joke is actually reflecting it. The joke part of it is being made because of rape culture. So it's like, what came first? Because rape culture would say that or people who believe we live in a rape culture say that because of the rape jokes that are normalized, but then the people making the rape jokes are saying, no, we're making these jokes because rape culture is talked about and so feared. What do you think?
I mean, it's kind of like Tim Hunt making his self-deprecating joke about being a misogynistic monster to that, luncheon full of science journalists in Korea. He's essentially portraying himself as this old misogynistic dinosaur, but women. I'm so glad that women have made such strides in science despite monsters like me. It really is a way of, like, because we have this reputation that we promote rape, that we want, like, I don't know if you've been around us this long, but I mean, like 5 years ago, feminists were saying that we MRAs want to make raping and beating your wife legal, right? And it's just like, okay, well, if you have the name, you might as well just poke fun at yourself for it. Yeah, no, I'm the most popular rape apologist on YouTube. There you go. I mean, because if people are going to say it, if you have the name, you might as well have the game, right? And it really is poking fun at what they assume of us, which is like we spend a huge amount of time trying to draw attention to.
Oh, Karen, your microphone is kind of going in and out, maybe just for me.
Oh no. We spend a huge amount of time trying to draw attention to rape victims who are not really served by the public discourse, who are ignored, essentially. Juveniles in juvenile detention facilities, young men who are sexually exploited, young male runaways living on the street, young boys who are trafficked for sex, like men who are raped by women. We try and draw attention to those people, and yet we're called like these rape apologists because we say the rape of women isn't the most important thing to address. It's not the most important thing on the planet. It's not the be all and end all of what the public should be talking about, particularly the rape of college women, because college women are actually the safest demographic of young women out there, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. So,
in their age range.
Yeah, of young women, yeah. So essentially, why are we concentrating so much effort on these particular victims, right? And ignoring all of these other ones. And then, the people who try and draw attention to these other victims are called rape apologists. It just seems bizarre to us. So that's why we poke fun at ourselves and call ourselves rape apologists and the whole bit.
Because we're not. We're actually
Yeah.
very much for the recognition of all forms of rape as rape victims. Well, not recognition. That sounds like we are pushing rape.
Acknowledgement of it.
Acknowledge of the various ways, and I think that the only solution to this can come from looking at all of the aspects of how people are sexually abused, and who the victims are, and not just the ones that the pretty white girl syndrome, not just the ones that play well on pamphlets to your donors. Not the ones that get your donors to open up their wallets because they care about them.
The ones in the orange jumpsuits.
Yeah, sometimes the ones that have penises, not vaginas. Anyway, I don't know if there's a real question in there for you, but
I would like to ask you both something, and I hate to start interviewing you since I don't want to mess with my film, but that was filmed and we'll make that story. But I would like to ask you both a question that I've been kind of thinking about, which is, do you think the humor that is encouraged and done in the men's rights movement is what then leads to people who disagree with the men's rights movement pointing their fingers at you and saying, see, look at what they did with the rape jokes, or for instance, Allison, with your comment in one of the Vice short documentaries that they posted on YouTube from the Detroit conference of 2014, there was a moment when Allison, I think, said to Karen that Karen looks like she'd just been raped or something, and it was almost like Vice really put that comment in there to try and give it the length to have the audience sink in and think about what was said. Do you feel like those moments where obviously you're making a joke but then are used to give ammo to people who disagree with MRAs?
I think can I answer that since I was the one who made the joke?
No. Yes.
Okay. Oh, well, if you say no, I'll just do it anyway. Oh God, I did it again.
Yeah, you violated me.
All right. No, well, the thing is that the humor of that joke was the fact that people were prodding her to sing, Karen to sing, and after she sang, she looked so disheveled. But the humor is based. You were ashamed. The humor is based on juxtaposing the absurd with, or not the mundane and inoffensive with something that is not, that actually is horrible. So a lot of rape jokes are predicated on the fact that it's horrible. They don't work unless you recognize that rape is a horrible thing. Now, if you want to take away that aspect, I think the only way that you're going to take away that aspect is to somehow normalize rape and say that every, I don't know, man does it, and it's just normal behavior for men. So it's not really horrible, it's just normal. And if you do that, I think that's a more horrible thing than using the horror of rape to create a joke that it doesn't exist. It's not funny if it isn't horrible to begin with. And the other thing is that when you make jokes about something that is horrible, you cut it down to size. And there are rape victims that use rape jokes as a way to cope with what's happened to them, because it does cut it down to size. It's like watching a school bully trip on his shoelaces and fall into his cafeteria tray. I mean, the threat goes away, and for people who lived under that threat, that is a relief to be able to laugh about it. It's gallows humor. It's the kind of humor that you see with paramedics and soldiers and people who have to deal with the really, really dark side of life. Sometimes all you can do is laugh, because all you can do is just reduce it, just reduce the emotional impact of it, because you can't get away from it.
In the act of laughing, you're laughing about it. You're saying that it doesn't own you, that the fear doesn't own you, that the memory of it, the trauma of it, doesn't own you. And it is very much a coping mechanism. But it's also, I would say that if Allison hadn't made that joke, they would have found something else. I mean, like they would have figured out. I mean, what did they do? They uploaded the video under the title, introducing the women of the men's rights movement or something like that. And then 3 weeks later, they changed the title to MRA's claim that rape victims deserved it or something like that, right? I mean, this is what they do. They're looking for any error that you could possibly make. And we are at the point, and I think Paul Elam was the one who really showed us, because the men's movement has been around for a long time, right? There was the mythopoetic men's movement in the 70s and the 80s, and the sort of more libertarian-leaning men's rights arm of the men's movement that split off from that. So you have this sort of very feminist, spiritual, mythopoetic men's movement that involves healing circles and drum circles and talking about your problems, but really not lobbying and not doing anything to it's all about individual healing and okay, so your problem hasn't been solved, but you feel better about it. And then there was this other branch of the men's movement that was also very, very careful about what things that they said and how they said those things. Warren Farrell, right? Like he had this best-selling book, The Myth of Male Power. The Financial Times top 100 thought leaders. He's one of them, and yet it didn't make any change. Change continued to progress in the opposite direction, right? From the change that sort of a wholesale acceptance of what his thesis was would have indicated, right? And it wasn't until Paul Elam started a Voice for Men and essentially said, fuck it. Like, just fuck it. I'm going to say what I want. And I'm going to be as loud and as obnoxious and as brash and as in your face and as un-PC, and I'm going to make rape jokes, and I'm going to make, write domestic violence satire, and I'm going to do all of that shit, right? That everybody's been telling me, oh, you can't do that if you want to get anything accomplished. Oh, you can't do this if you want to get anything accomplished, right? He's the one who's managed to get attention for all of this stuff. He's sort of the spearhead of the entire movement, is his approach to things. And it is, and his philosophy is, whatever you say, no matter how polite, no matter how correct, they're going to use it against you, right? So you might as well just say what you want, right? And you might as well just take the tone wherever you like, and people will get used to it. People will adjust, right? I would much rather live in a world where I can drop an F-bomb every now and then, right? Than, and while I'm doing my advocacy work, and not have people go, oh my God, she used the F word. Oh, and then, oh my God, she used the C word too, right? I would rather have people just be acclimatized to harsh rhetoric and to people saying what they want. I don't want to be closed into a box where I have to be careful about what I say. I would rather shock everyone and then have them listen to the message, right? Rather than go out of my way to not shock anyone and have nobody listen.
So I mean, essentially, it's a question between like no coverage and being portrayed as the devil, and so we have a choice, really.
Oh, even with no coverage, we'd still be portrayed as the devil. We just wouldn't be getting the press.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my opinion is that maybe approaching the press and even courting the press, even as the devil, there may be no ultimate point to it, and constructing an alternative system of vetting information and getting people aware of things is probably a long term going to be the solution. But that's a disagreement maybe me and Karen have.
No, I absolutely agree. I think that if the CBC ever invites me to sit on a panel about MRAs, it'll be because of those numbers that I quoted in my letter to them, which is less than 20% of Canadians consider themselves feminists.
Mm-hmm.
And the men's rights and the men's issues movements are growing. Support for them, even if people don't identify as MRAs, everybody knows a man who's committed suicide. Everybody knows, or a boy who's struggling in school, or a remarried man who's struggling to pay for his new family's shoes while 2/3 of his paycheck is being confiscated by the government. And his wife's income is now included in that, so his ex-wife now gets to take him back to court and ask for more money. Like, this is just how people see these issues in their everyday lives. That's why there is sort of a case-by-case support. Why the shared parenting bill had overwhelming popular support, even though it was defeated in Parliament in Canada. It's why the alimony reform bill in Florida had overwhelming popular support and flew past both houses.
I wanted to address Cassie's question before she has to run off, and give what I would consider, and just to say, I actually think, I think that it's going to be, a lot of these changes have to come from women. It's going to be women stepping up and demanding that society recognize that caring for men is important. To me, that I think that is the inevitable conclusion that I've come to in all of my wanderings. But I specifically wanted to address the rape joke issue. Now, the thing is that in the men's rights circles, there are a lot of people, men and women, who are basically what I would call the unworthy victims of rape, which means because the genital configuration of the sexual violence that we experienced wasn't correct according to the feminist lens of who should be served first, we don't get services. So humor is one of our only coping mechanisms, is one of our main coping mechanisms. And I think it's incredibly cruel and bullying to simultaneously ignore us and then point fingers at our coping mechanism. Because if you aren't going to get the space to heal, if you aren't going to get the funding for the therapy, and you have to live with it, the only way to live with it is to try to cut it down to size with humor, which is, I think, why men do that a lot. Because they know if they do talk about it in a way that sounds victim-y, they're just going to be dogpiled on. So they use rape jokes as a way of coping with the fact that they don't get services. And to me, to judge a group of survivors for the way that they cope with rape is just, I think that's pretty despicable. And ultimately, yeah, I guess it may be detrimental to our public image to allow certain groups of rape survivors to have that coping mechanism. And a lot of the people who are making those jokes, I know, have been raped or have experienced sexual abuse and have no outlet, no place where they get government funding to deal with their pain. To take that away from them, in the interest of serving a public that doesn't care about them, or feminists who don't seem to want to recognize that they exist, their sensibilities, that seems really freaking cruel. And to be quite frank, I would rather prevent one of the unworthy victims of rape who doesn't get services, prevent them from committing suicide by allowing them that coping mechanism in a place where they can have that coping mechanism, then bow to feminist sensibilities about the issue. I mean, it's very easy to say, oh yeah, rape jokes are bad, when you have that society gives you
You're not the one
resources.
Laughed out of the police station when you
Yeah,
go.
it's easy to say that when you're not the one who that's their only coping mechanism.
Well, everybody else laughs at it. The cops laugh at it. The feminists laugh at it. Adele Mercier is like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So, it's essentially.
I don't know if that was too challenging an answer, but. Let's Karen, before you start up the Karen train, let Cassidy have a last word.
Well, Brian wanted to ask about her future projects.
Okay.
That was a good segue.
No, Cassie, now that you're finishing up the Red Pill, and I imagine it's in post-production and should be, coming out pretty soon. First off, I wanted to know, what if you have like a planned date in terms of like when we can expect to find it. And I'm pretty sure that this has been asked before, but this is just for people who haven't seen that already. And then secondly, are you already thinking about what you want to do next? If you have like a project in mind or things that you're thinking about?
So when we plan to release the film is in fall 2016. That is our aim for the release of this film, and it's a very tight deadline for us, so we are going to do our absolute best to get it out by then. And as far as next projects down the line, it's hard to say because over a month ago I wasn't even knowing if I'd complete the Red Pill, and I was at a big crossroads in my life, not knowing what would be next. So now that I know, I'll be working with the Red Pill for another year to complete it, and then also probably about another year touring it around at screenings and taking it around the world. That will take a while, but I have thought about what's going to be next, and I particularly really enjoy gender topics. Even in my previous films, you can kind of see that through line of I did a film about sex education and LGBT issues, and now the men's rights movement. So I do love to look at gender issues. But I don't know. I don't have one set for the next film. I'm open to seeing what happens with the Red Pill and seeing if it takes me down a certain path. Even while I've been working on the Red Pill, I've thought, wow, there's so much here that it's going to be difficult to scrunch it into 90 minutes. I wish I could do more with it, like a series or something to go further into these issues, but I don't know if that opportunity will present itself through completing this feature film. So yeah, it's up in the air. I'm open to hearing ideas though, and we'll see what happens.
Gamergate.
Yeah, Gamergate. But no, thanks. Thanks for that answer, Cassie. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm guessing we're gonna have to let you go. So.
Yeah, apologies, guys. I have another meeting to run off to. But I would have loved to have gone even further with this, and I hope we can do it again soon, even over the next year while I'm working on post-production. I think it'd be really fun to do this again.
Awesome. All right, it was really, really great to talk to you again. I'm just really glad that you managed to be able to pull the Kickstarter to victory, and you're going to be able to release this film. I'm just really excited about it.
Yes. Definitely. Looking forward to it. Is there going to be, do you have a particular month that it'll be released, or?
I hate to give too specific dates because we're really working out the details right now, but it's probably maybe October. Not quite sure how it's all going to work out, but we're also looking at some film festivals that will be happening around the fall, which I know it's going to be difficult to get into those. So hopefully, I can't say this too soon, but once we start getting close to the release date, it may be a scenario where we need some help convincing film festivals to take a look and not just write it off. So that may come down the pipeline in a year or so, where we're submitting to festivals, but they may be getting letters from people saying don't show this. So maybe we need some other letters to balance it out. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that will be good, and I will happily promote any efforts in that direction. So, and I'm sure Allison and the Honey Badgers and A Voice for Men and NCFM and all of the other organizations, Fathers for Justice and Justice for Men and Boys and all of these other groups, I'm sure they'll happily back you up on that. So.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay, thanks again for coming on, and good luck finishing it up and getting it out there.
Thank you guys so much. This was really fun, and hope to talk to you both again soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
All right.